Boom. And we live. We back. Very, very interesting show today. We're not even gonna, do too much today. We're gonna hop right into it. We hop right into the music. No more music today. We are going to get right into the topic because we got a pretty juicy topic going on, man. We got a real interesting topic today, surrounding, you know, what's gonna go down, right? And what has happened uh currently as it pertains to um, Kenya. It's very interesting to see the news right now because everybody's fired, right? So we're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna call the professor right away, and you know, hopefully get his opinion on stuff. Let's go ahead and call the professor now. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me and you can hear the professor. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Put a one in the chat if you can hear the professor clearly. Uh, just want to thank everybody for coming in today. We got a real interesting show today. Definitely been meaning on to get Professor Pops's opinion on what is going on right now. So thanks again for joining us as usual. We're diving right into the topic today. What is going on? Why did Ruto fire everybody?
Well, number one, it's not like he had a choice. For him to remain being president, he had at least to have some modicum of governing. And to govern, he needs some members of an executive team that are competent. And he knew very well he didn't have them. He had done something that I had never thought anybody would accomplish, getting so much incompetence in one place.
Wow.
But he had just acquired his PhD. So he wanted to show that he was a real professor of politics, something that his mentor,
Who, Ruto?
Professor Moi, wasn't.
Who, Ruto?
So, yes, Ruto just acquired a PhD from the University of Nairobi.
Okay, congratulations, President Ruto. Doctor
Yeah,
Ruto.
Dr. Ruto. So he didn't seem to understand much on how a government works, even though he had been deputy president for 10 years. And before that, he had been a cabinet member. So I think when he came, and as they say in Kenya, things on the ground tend to be very different from what you thought they were. When he became president, he saw, and I quote here, elephant everywhere, because things were bigger than, the problems were bigger than he thought. And the state of statecraft was also more complex than he thought it was.
Right.
Yeah, so at least Gen Z gave him now that impetus and an incentive to do what he had always wanted to do, have a better cabinet. But then something happened just a few days back. His nemesis, Raila Odinga, had crossed the floor and joined Ruto's sinking ship. So the only person who would have been an alternative for the Gen Zs, at least in the calculation of the old guard, was Raila. And now Raila frying in the same pan with Ruto. Ruto now saw this an opportunity to use all the bodies that will be frying in that pan as his escape route. And this is what he is doing. And see what he has done. He sacks them, but does not replace them. And that is where now the real political calculation begins.
You see, that's something that we discussed a little bit off show when we were talking about the pre-episode before we hopped on the live. But um please dive into that a little bit more, because you're saying that in previous episodes you discussed how Gen Z didn't have a strategy, right? And that they were a
Mm-hmm.
leaderless movement.
Mm-hmm.
Successful in nonetheless, right? And you gave Gen Z their props this morning when you said that they were able to succeed in doing something you don't think anybody has done yet thus far in Kenya. And you compared the action of Gen Z to what Ruto is doing now. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What is that? What implications did you mean when you mentioned that previously?
You see, take politics just as any other game. When you have a good offensive, your defense must be tight unless you want to get very many scores against you. If your defense is very tight, then the opponent's strikers must be exceptionally good. Politics exactly the same. Gen Z made their move, and the move was good. But what they didn't do, because they didn't have a leader, they didn't really seem to have a strategy on what they wanted. And nobody was able to articulate it very clearly. And that has its disadvantages and advantages. Because it didn't have a leader, then nobody would have been co-opted the way Kenyan politicians have always done. So Gen Z for a longer period were a threat. But you see, as Chinua Achebe will tell you, when boys learn to shoot without patching, birds also learn to fly. Sorry, when boys learn to shoot without missing, birds learn to fly without patching. This is what Ruto had time to do. When the movement continued so much, he was able to have a counter move. And for him now, I'm seeing is that he has either counter moves or several faces of the same move. So now he has taken over the theater. Everybody else will be reacting to him. The way Gen Z had taken over, and then now everybody else, including Ruto, was reacting to them. So now Ruto has taken the carpet out of their feet. Everybody else now must react. And number one, there's no way Gen Z can say this wasn't a significant yielding. In all yardsticks, this is a major victory for them. So, do they now act irresponsibly and not respond to that directly? And by this, I mean, do they still going to the streets, even when there is evidence that Ruto is responding to them? Or do they relax and then wait for Ruto's next move? So you see, the onus is now on Gen Zs and how they react. But then remember, Ruto is one step ahead of them now. So Ruto is also watching them. What is their next move? If they go to the street, he can co-opt them very easily. Who do you want me to put in the cabinet? Who are the people who are corruption free? Who are the people who are competent? If we threw that to Gen Zs, they will have to respond to him because that is exactly what they are looking for. So you see, Ruto, who was a score down, is now drawing and he has the momentum. And now it is a matter of two masters of the chess game to compete in outdoing one another. And in this case, Ruto, who is his own leader, will have an advantage because he is operating like now a tyrant, like a dictatorship, and they say they are the most effective against these ones because every now and then his cronies will be telling Gen Z, let's do this. And then the other wing of Ruto tells another thing to Gen Zs. And then another wing of the same Ruto tells them. So as they are busy now weighing the options they have been given, and they are given by Ruto, then whichever one they pick, they'll be weaker than when they were united without any agenda. And the moment they start considering the options given definitely by Ruto, each wing of them will be weaker than the collectivity, and Ruto will crush them.
Wow. So you're saying Ruto has strategies, counter strategies in multiple different fronts for multiple different options.
Outcomes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I see. I understand. And I think this is where the discussion of strategy was leading to. And as you can tell by the chat, that more people are interested in the outcries, not in the long game, right? And that long game is what politics is. It is the ability to outlast the emotional reaction in order to enact the longer strategy. Because now people are not necessarily as hyped up about the protests as they were before, because they do feel that they were successful, even though they didn't know that they were going to be successful, nor did they intend to actually be successful, right? It just happened to work. What would you tell Gen Z in this position now? What would you advise them if you were the leader of this movement?
The same thing I advise them, and I've been advising them all through. Learn from Otto von Bismarck. You need a strong ally to crush all your enemies, but few have a strategy for eliminating the ally. He coined this term of wait until the iron is hot before you strike. And he carried that one out. And France, which he had been using to crush all the others, thought they had mastered what he would do. He would always prepare, that is, making the iron hot, and then he strikes when it is very hot. But when he had crushed everybody else, and it was about France, because he had that also figured out, he told his soldiers, let's attack France now. And then he was told, sir, but the iron is not hot. And he says, sometimes it is better to make the iron hot by striking.
By striking. I see. I remember that. I remember that lesson.
They should have let Ruto, because they need Ruto to effect almost all these things. Because we can't have an election without Ruto signing a document that selects the IEBC. We cannot, there are so many things we cannot do without a president. So they can be allies to the president to crush the others. And my advice had always been target the MPs. The members of parliament are the problem. Because even if Ruto was to bring God, Jesus, Muhammad, and all the angels as cabinet secretaries, they will have to be vetted by the corrupt parliament. And that corrupt parliament will not put in place people that will curtail their eating. So they would want to pass people who already have a baggage, their comrades in corruption. So unless we do away with parliament, or unless we keep on salimiering parliamentarians, once those names, and if the names will be of competent people, once they are taken to parliament, we should send Gen Zs to every constituency to say hi, kusalimia, the member of parliament. And that member of parliament now has to be salimiwad very good. For those who do not understand Nairobi lingo, the Gen Zs have started to go greeting missions to their local members of parliament. And when they are greeted, the greeting is so hot that some of their houses go in flames, or the members of parliament disappear for some time. So that pressure should be increased a lot to ensure that when these competent people, and that is assuming Ruto will know where his survival is and give us somebody who is people who are competent. So when those competent ones go to parliament, parliamentarians then should have no choice but to approve them. And then once they are approved, we continue putting pressure on the MPs. Then from that, we target the governors. And then from the governors, we target the members of the county assemblies. And if we are able to achieve that, we don't even need to worry about the president. And I've maintained that the president, if he is checked very well, he cannot do much. And then once all that dust has settled, we target the judiciary. And we start going to Salimia judges who give chicken thieves bond of 10 million, and a governor who has stolen 2 billion shillings. They are allowed to go and negotiate with the prosecutor of an out-of-court settlement. We've seen murderers going scot-free on technicalities, but phone thieves staying in detention for years before their cases are finalized. So now we start kumulika. We start now targeting judges. And after we do that, of course, we'll have eliminated the police. We say the police, if they have to take chai, let them have girlfriends or wives who know how to make good chai so that they carry chai to their work if they want that chai. We stop simply giving it. And every time we see a police receiving any bribe, we film it and then we expose it. And once we've exposed, we say we don't even need a judge to declare them guilty. That film of them taking it, as long as it can be authenticated that it is real, the police goes home. Then once that dust settles, we start now letting our torch on past regimes. Who got what loans? What did those loans do? We start looking at their secret accounts wherever they are and demanding that money comes back. And it is very easy. When you find whether it is the Kenyatta family, the Odinga family, the Mudavadi family that are stolen from Kenya, arrest everybody. When they are in jail, you can negotiate with them now to get our money back to release them.
Very smart.
That easy.
Very smart. Yeah. So, we got a couple new viewers. Shout out everybody that is here. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Everybody's help really matters in growing this channel. We gotta make sure that African politics are covered by Africans. And we got to make sure that African experts are at the foreground. So please support the media. Please support the movement. This allows myself and the professor to grind as much as possible and continue to grow this. So please like, please share, please subscribe. It is free. It costs you nothing but thumb work. Please, thank you. You mentioned a lot of key stuff, right? So first you said that rather than having all of this smoke for Ruto, there needs to be a practical approach towards starting off with MPs, then starting out, then continuing to the members of the county assembly, correct? And then after that,
governors and county assembly, yes.
Governors and county assembly. Then after that, going to the judges, right? But really what you're talking about is building a culture of checking corruption, right? And this is kind of now that perfect marriage of the old generation and the new generation, right? where you're recognizing the fire of these young kids, right? And you know, people who are around my age as well, right on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z, who are active and protesting for Kenya, and they have all this energy, but not as much direction. I think what you're saying will give direction, right? And give this fire a channel for productivity. Um, how would you get the word out to Salimia, these MPs, right? How would you get this word out? How would you what kind of public campaigns would you run? Um, or what kind of slogans would you have? Some of the sort to get this mindset within the Gen Z. They've been using Instagram, they've been using other things as such to organize themselves. But what kind of slogan would help cater to each part of the strategy for the MPIGs, quote unquote, the governors and county assembly, and the judges, right?
The strategy the Gen Zs already have, and they have General Miguna getting them the numbers, and they'll just say, oh, by the way, the member of parliament they will name the place and say, this is the number. He has not been behaving well. Can the people around him go and salimia yeye? It has been extremely effective that almost all of them have gone to hiding.
Right.
You see, you do that when they are in session, because you know you can't miss a number of sessions without losing your seat. So we only need to do that, and we just target them in Nairobi. They will, in parliament, they can use all the tunnels they want, but at least they must get to the road and they must get home. So we only need to know the numbers that they have been allocated by the government or their own private numbers. And you say, when you see this vehicle, because today it must come to parliament, they have missed 5 sittings, so they can't miss a 6th one. Or we know if they are missing the 6th one, they will pretend that they are in a hospital.
Right.
So we will cover the basics. There is a practical way of ensuring that we put them in check. And I can guarantee you, if we do it so well with the MPs and we eat that bacon, you can be sure the others are the ones who will be telling you, no, I'm resigning, or no, we are doing things differently.
Wow. Okay. If you had a time frame, what would this time frame be?
The MPs, 2 weeks is enough.
2 weeks. Governors?
Governors, we give them, because remember, these are people who are elected at the local level.
Right.
So they still have more legitimacy, by the way.
Right.
And they have benefited, or there is a group that they can still whip some emotions to get them. So actually the governors, we would use a slightly different tactic. We would simply aim to know what they are doing with our money. And I would tell them, let's start with a governor who has been there for at least 2 terms, because now we have a long record. We know the books have been audited. We know what they have done with the money or what they have not done with it, because the records have not been properly audited. When there are questions from the Auditor General. So all those things now are public. So we target those first. The ones that are clearly corrupt. We target anybody who has a case of murder or a case of fraud or misappropriation of public funds. We go to those ones. And there are only 47, there are not many. So we can say just 1 million from the county just goes and comes at the governor's house. And you see, the good thing about this is that just the villages themselves, they can produce 100,000, 200,000 every day to go and camp at the governors. They will definitely be somewhere. And then people in Nairobi are watching. When they come to Nairobi now, we salimia them properly by just telling them, no, 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 you must go back to put your house in order. And we tell the Nairobi governor, you see, part of your problem is allowing the thieves in the other counties to come and hide you here. If you are hiding a thief, we'll treat you as one. So the governors, the governor Nairobi's people will be the ones telling us, oh, so and so is hiding in this place. And because the police know we are going after them next, they want to befriend Gen Zs by telling them where these people are. Because remember, they are guarding them.
Wow. So this has the potential to be very, very messy, honestly.
Very successful. That is what I look at it, not messy.
No, it could be very messy, right? Because the police ultimately are the wild card in this scenario, being the ones that have the weapons, right?
Yep.
And so ultimately you're saying that the fate of these young people would be in the discretion of the police, right? And that depends on the policeman, right? Especially
No,
because
actually,
there's a very
actually, that is not it.
okay.
I didn't say they are at the discretion of the police because remember, the police know they are next. So even many of them, even when they are going in public places, many of them today still do not want to carry a gun because you don't want it even to go off accidentally. And then there is 20, 30 people who are videoing it because you can't escape. So now, even as a police officer, you are better off just enjoying like a video clip I've seen of agency dancing so seductively between two police officers, and they were just watching. To me, I would say those are the police officers who have intelligence. Things have changed so much that you are considered a good performer when you do absolutely nothing, because you know this is not your fight. Yes, you have been sent to the streets,
Right.
but fighting Gen Zs is not a fight you can win. So allowing them to get into a public vehicle called a GK, allowing them to dance next to you, taking selfies with you, that shows you as a well-meaning public servant.
Right.
It is not a fight about me. They are not breaking any law because the last time I checked, there was no law against dancing.
Or selfies.
Yes. So you see, allowing them just to do what they do might actually be reciprocated by Gen Z also saying, we are in the streets and the police, we don't want to invite the police, so let's also behave. And as long as they are well behaved, they will go to the streets today, then they go to the streets tomorrow. By the third day, it would be no fun. No, it won't be fun anymore. So some of them will start staying at home. So I am not seeing the police as a critical thing in at this stage, other than the fact that if you made them an ally, remember they guard everybody that you are targeting.
Would you see the military as a threat?
No, the military is not a threat at all. The military is only a threat to Ruto.
Why?
Because you see, the military are not allowed to go to interact with civilians. The military are mainly to protect. There is a specialized elements of the military that protect key installations and strategic buildings, and then they also guard State House. But you see, when they are sent to the streets, it should be quick and they get out. Otherwise, when they get to the streets, they also march faster to get to the seat and overthrow the government. So nobody would want them there.
Okay. Okay. All right. So what do you think Ruto is going to do next?
If I were in his shoes, I would.
Not what you would do. What do you think he's going to do?
You see, I've started seeing a chip that he has somewhere next to his ear, and that probably must be changing the Ruto I used to know. The Ruto I used to know used to be a very strategic person, but the one who is in State House doesn't seem to be that strategic. Otherwise, you'd have seen this on day one. But at least I give him props for neutralizing Raila. Raila now is completely neutralized. Yesterday, I couldn't believe when what was circulating is who is near Raila to go and salimia him. All through history, Raila has been the one sending people to go and salimia somebody else. But now this is the first time they told him, you're an old man, stay at home. We told you to stay at home. So that now gives Ruto some leeway. To survive, definitely he must put together a coalition. And this coalition will be now more driven, not by surviving Gen Zs. I would say he has already survived Gen Zs. This is now putting a coalition that might deliver something that might be his anchoring for 2027 elections. And because he knows he's not going to have the Kikuyus with him in 2027, he might start now co-opting the Luos. And you might not be surprised to find the new government might have non-performers, or at least people who can speak very good English in lieu of performance. So you'll see many of them that have been in previous governments or in industry. He might act stupidly by putting church leaders there, but the Gen Zs are as opposed to church leadership as they are of his government. So I don't see how he can do that.
Right. You know, I want to switch gears a little bit because while we're on the subject of Ruto, and you know, the subject of the entire subject is the success of Gen Zs, right? You know, Uncle brought up something that was really major, and I've been thinking about this the whole time, right? And that's the role of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, because this was not a bill that was proposed by Kenyans. It was a bill that was proposed by the IMF. Do you think that? I'm sorry.
Continue.
Do you think that there is a major issue within the African public of fully understanding how their leaders are implicated by foreign influence and how a lot of the issues that may be occurring in their country are foreign born and foreign made, right? Because I see a lot of this issue with Ruto, but it's really a larger problem. And that is how the IMF and the World Bank influence so much of economic policy and economic movement abroad, especially in Africa, because it keeps the chain of the hegemony staying as it is. How do you get Gen Zs to start to understand some of these larger global power plays that are at play?
Actually, part of the successes of the Gen Zs is their ignorance.
So you're saying that the Gen Zs being ignorant of the IMF's influence in Africa is what's giving them the power to do so? Why? Because then it seems like it's not as big of a beast.
No. Actually, there are some things that Africans have it wrong. And one of it is the role of civic education. Kenya is exactly where it is democratically because we over-educated people who should have not been educated on civics and on governance and on whatever you want to call it. Democracy thrives on the ignorance of the majority of the people. All the so-called democracies have completely ignorant populations on civics. It is only in Africa where somebody has no idea how to get a job, how to feed their family, but they are giving advice on how they should be governed. Everywhere else, you are more worried about your livelihood, getting a job, than how you. That is it.
You cut out a little bit.
And now, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. You said that is what?
I said that as a bearing now with what we are talking about, the IMF. People like yourself and myself who know the role the IMF is doing on this will be more sympathetic to Ruto because we know how his hands are tied. But the Gen Zs doesn't know that. The Gen Zs doesn't know that anybody else in Ruto's shoes will face exactly the same.
I'm not sympathetic.
And that is why
I'm not sympathetic to Ruto. I'm sympathetic to the African experience that is completely stifled by foreign influence, right? But Ruto made his choice. Ruto took his 30 pieces, right? So I'm not necessarily sympathetic to him. I still want them to understand the chess move, though. The chess move of what Ruto plays is different from, having sympathy for him. I just understand the chess move is not his fault, right?
Actually, the 30 silver pieces were not taken by Ruto. They were taken by Uhuru and some of it by Kibaki.
Right.
Ruto is just now coming of age when the bills have come due. But you see what he did is was able to push it by 5 years. So now what he's experiencing will be experienced, but only worse by the next one. But the point is, it is the ignorance of the Gen Zs that is making them make these wild demands. And then with the assumption that if you aim at the stars, you might get to the moon. And the moon is really, really quite high. So them not knowing the role of the international mother and father and the World Bank, it is good for the revolution. Them not knowing even what will happen after that
keeps
is
them
also
crazy.
very
It
good
keeps
for
them
the
crazy
revolution.
enough to keep going.
Exactly.
I see.
When you don't know that there is a cliff only 300 meters away, you can run as fast as you can, and you can run claiming that I'm number one. But then the ones who know there is a cliff there that you are going to go under and die, you find people who are even better runners saying, no, you can take number one, I'll be fine. So there is an element of it that we can blame on the IMF, but previous presidents have been able to work through. In fact, like more even to manipulate the IMF, such that you get what you want from them and they get nothing from you. Think of how Kenya is of strategic importance to the West. It is the only place where it's safe for its Marines to land should they have anything to do in Africa or even in the Middle East. So you see, if Ruto was a more strategic leader, there are bases by the British and the Johnese that need to be negotiated in Laikipia, the port of Mombasa, and access by U.S. Marines. There are so many strategic things that he could have gotten to make the loans that had been taken not be of as negative consequences as they are. But he didn't look at that because his objective was amass as much as you can. He's also targeting land. The bills that he had started bringing to Parliament, or his cronies bringing to Parliament, were bills that were targeted to achieve specific things that would position Ruto in a place that he would amass a lot. The previous leaders had some public land that they could grab. But now almost all this public land has been grabbed. So now Ruto must either grab it from the peasants or grab it from yesterday's grabbers. And this is why he needs the corrupt members of parliament, because the moment he bribes them, then they pass anything, even if it will take away the land from their mothers.
So then that may pose a problem to Gen Z within your hypothetical plan, then, right? Is that if Ruto needs these MPs, then he'll also protect them to a certain extent, correct?
No. But that is why now I had said, let him know that his position is still precarious, but we are okay with you. Oh. So he's torn between the MPs and the Gen Zs.
Right. Which is a very tough choice.
Exactly.
Very tough choice nonetheless. Well, it
would have been easy because it would have been easy because the Gen Zs pose an immediate threat.
Right.
So let them deal with the MPs. And you see now, if let's say like we were to have 20, 30 MP positions fall vacant, now that will be an opportunity for Ruto to increase his majority in parliament. So the Gen Zs can be his allies as long as they are removing his enemies. Your enemy's enemy is my friend.
Facts. Okay. So this could go multiple ways. And you're saying Ruto is very prepared for multiple ways. How can the Gen Zs prepare for multiple outcomes? We've recognized their definitive aims that would serve them well, but how can they prepare for outcomes that they may not necessarily be calculating right now?
No. I think I need to give Gen Zs more credit than I've ever given any other generation.
Wow.
They have achieved.
No, hang on.
Achieved a lot.
We got it. Wow. This is a momentous day. I hope everybody in the chat heard that. The Professor Pops just said he has to give Gen Zs more credit. Wow.
Yes.
All right,
they
Professor.
Have achieved a lot.
What grade do you give the Gen Zs right now? A being flying colors, right? All the way down to F being a failing grade. Include plus or minus. What grade out of 100% would you give Gen Z's performance?
I'll give them a very strong B.
A very strong B. So 85 to 89%.
Oh, in Nairobi, 70 is an A.
Hey, that's fair. Okay.
But you see, other than the fact that they didn't prepare for the goons who will be brought now to counter them.
Right.
Oh, they were sailing so smoothly.
Right.
I had never seen a situation where the police just look.
Right.
I had not seen a situation where they announce openly, we will go on Tuesday. I had never imagined a situation where a president will call a meeting and somebody else openly calls for an alternative meeting, and the president can't do anything about it, like he called on X.
There's power wherever there's people. Rest in peace, Fred Hampton.
But even that, sometimes even the seemingly craziest ideas can be a way forward. You know the way we say even a broken clock is always
right,
very accurate.
A broken clock is right twice a day. Yeah.
Twice a day. It is extremely accurate.
Yeah.
So these happen to be one of those.
Wow.
So, but at least they have achieved a lot. To hear a president saying, I have heard you, and this is what I'm doing. I am packing the entire cabinet and the attorney general. Only 2 people were left standing, and those are the only people without a job description. So they couldn't be fired, because you can't be fired from a job you didn't have. The vice president and the and Musalia Mudavadi, these are people without any designation. So they could not have been fired because they didn't have the job in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big achievement. The question now is, can they make a counter move? Remember, my major concern was, can we balance this fight in such a way that when it is over, we still have a Kenya?
Right.
So you see, Ruto has done something that says, I have heard you, but we can play in a way that whoever loses, the winner still has a Kenya to govern, but I've heard you. Can they now, being a crowd without a leader, can they make a counter offer where again they take the lead? And now Ruto has to react to them. Because you see, the problem will be the moment Ruto realizes I have the upper hand, he might now use every available force, every available law against them, and now crush them. And then now they become just a resistance movement, another nuisance to his administration. And then we lose another momentous point in our history.
Right.
So are the Gen Zs able to react without losing momentum, without losing sight of their objective, which I still don't know what it is, but at least that is the good thing about it. You also can't lose sight of something you didn't see. So can they continue with that momentum, even if it is that wording in darkness, to make Ruto make another move that is yielding to them? Can we continue with that until actually we are in a place where, number one, we have a competent cabinet, number two, where accountability systems and institutions are functioning? And you see, the good thing about when you are winning, it will take the next battle. You will be winning until the next battle. And as long as the next battle you win, then you continue being a winner until the next one. So even if Ruto is making the right moves for his survival, he will simply be countering what they are doing. And that, to me, is a very good scenario where we are still holding him to account, but Kenya is still running.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's balance, right? That's balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an excellent place to put a pin in it for today. You know, thanks so much for that insight, because seeing the fruits of their labor, I don't think is something that, because there wasn't a metric, they can even be like, okay, we got fruits, right? And you're right. We continue to return back to this motif of what the metric is for success of this movement. And it, or is it just this large momentum that is a tidal wave and is indiscriminately destroying everything? And that's something that would be good and bad in itself as well. But I definitely appreciate your insight, and I think it's been a great show. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. Professor Pops, anything you want to leave the audience with before we head out today?
Yes, tuendelee kusalimia MPs, tusalimie sana, tuwasalimie sana. And on the way, when you meet a member of county assembly, yeah, msalimie, but msalimie in a softer hand.
So the MPs, salimia vibaya, But
MPs actually get what Wamjengo to go and salimia MP with the rough hand.
lakini the ninis the county assembly.
MCS, yeah, MCS, just a lighter touch, just telling them, no, you are young, just you have a longer way to go. You can start the right way. Let's do this thing. It is our village.
I understand. I understand.
Yep.
Police yourself, man. Um, and
And
yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and have a wonderful night. We'll be back in no time with more content. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. Smash that like button, smash that comment, smash the subscribe, and we are out. Enjoy your day.